Well, good morning. Keeping New York City's economy on track demands that we generate jobs today and help New Yorkers find and keep those jobs in these hard times. But it also means strengthening and fostering jobs for tomorrow by diversifying and strengthening our economy for the long term. And over the past decade, we've worked to reduce New York's dependence on Wall Street, as you know, and encourage entrepreneurship that spurs innovation and economic growth. And I think it's fair to say that those efforts really are starting to pay off. Today, our economy has a broader base in a wider array of industries, from tourism to fashion to bioscience to film and TV production. But there's clearly a lot more that we can do, and I want to make sure that we're doing it. We've set our sights on our city's industrial sector because New York always has been and always must be a place where people can find good jobs in making and moving products. And specifically, we've set in motion an ambitious plan to revive Brooklyn's working waterfront and catalyze the creation of some 11,000 new industrial jobs there over the next 2 decades. And you can already see some of the fruits of those labors in the hundreds of new jobs and businesses that have moved into or are planning to move into the nearby Brooklyn Army Terminal and the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal. Now, we're taking the next step in this effort, and it is a big one. It involves this hulking 1.1 million square foot warehouse in Sunset Park, endearingly known by the catchy name as Federal Building Number 2. Who came up with that? I don't know, but they were a marketing genius. This facility was built even before I was born. 1916 it was built as a warehouse for the U.S. Navy, but since 2000 it has been vacant. And that's like having a building as big as Macy's on Herald Square sitting completely emptied for a decade. Now, for the past 5 years, we worked with the U.S. Government Services Administration, which manages federally owned real estate, to try to find a use for the building. Unfortunately, some of those attempts were thwarted by the economic downturn, but we never lost faith in the building's potential. We have always envisioned this warehouse as a perfect home for our city's next generation of industrial businesses and jobs, and we continued to work with Congress members Nydia Velázquez and Jerry Nadler to make it happen. In May, you should know, the city's Economic Development Corporation, and Seth Pinsky is here, there you are, brokered the sale of Federal Building Number 2 to Salmar Properties for $10 million. And today we are excited to announce that Salmar is kicking off $35 million worth of renovations to modernize the building and prepare it for tenants. And we expect this redevelopment project will create at least 400 construction jobs and lead to 1,300 permanent industrial jobs. Now, if just looking at the building, I think it's not hard to say that the facility needs a lot of work before tenants can move in. A lot of its windows are broken, although most don't exist. The facade and the roof need to be repaired. The elevator banks, and there are 23 of them, have to be replaced. The plumbing needs to be fixed too, and the building hasn't had electric power for a very long time. Salmar's extensive renovations will help it meet some of the requirements that we build into the sale to ensure that this building is supporting as many industrial jobs as quickly as possible. For instance, Salmar has agreed to a 2-year time frame to bring the building up to a standard where it can be leased out. And as part of that sale, Salmar has also agreed to make at least 85% of the building available to light industrial use for the next 30 years. The remaining 15% will be available for retail or other job-creating uses. Provided that Salmar meets these conditions and that the building maintains at least 1,300 industrial jobs, the project will receive $37 million in sales and real estate tax exemptions from the city's Industrial Development Agency. But they have to deliver or they don't get the benefits. The redevelopment of Federal Building Number 2 is among the most significant initiatives that the city's Economic Development Corporation has pursued to bolster New York City's industrial sector. For instance, you should know we're working with Phoenix Beverages to open a new shipping facility on the Red Hook waterfront that not only will take some 20,000 trucks a year off the road, but also will create and preserve 600 jobs. We've forged an agreement with the Sims Municipal Recycling Company to open a modern recycling plant at the 30th Street Pier in Sunset Park, which will also eliminate truck trips and create 100 jobs. We've signed an agreement with the Axis Group to create a new auto processing facility in the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, which will create 300 jobs. We've opened 2 incubators for the food industry in East Harlem and Long Island City that are giving small businesses in manufacturing, catering, and baking the affordable space that they need to grow and hire more New Yorkers. We've also partnering with Goldman Sachs to provide $10 million in loans to other entrepreneurs in the food industry. And in June, we unveiled a package of 22 initiatives to strengthen the city's industrial sector. The redevelopment of Federal Building Number 2 is one of these initiatives. In total, these 22 initiatives will revitalize, modernize, and preserve up to 9 million square feet of underutilized industrial space across the city. They will also create and retain up to 30,000 direct and indirect industrial jobs and generate more than $150 million in city tax revenue, which we certainly can use. The city's industrial sector has had its challenges in the recent past, but with today's announcement and the activity we're seeing along the Brooklyn waterfront, I think it's clear that industry's future is bright in New York City. Now, you're going to hear from some of the people that really made all this possible, but I think the key takeaway here is, while people across the country are always talking about creating jobs, we are doing it. And if you take a look at diversifying your economy, everybody talks about it, but we've actually done that. And the results you can see in what happened in the current recession. From top to bottom, this country, sadly, with a lot of pain for a lot of people, lost 6% of all private sector jobs, and we've only got some of them back. During that same period, when the country lost 6% of its private sector jobs, New York City lost 0.3%, and we've come back and gotten that back already. So thanks to a lot of the people you're going to hear from today, not just on this project, but on many projects. While others talk about it, New York City has been doing things, diversifying our economy, keeping jobs, finding new industries to come in and replace old industries that just aren't viable anymore. As the world changes, some industries just are not going to survive, but we have to make sure that the people that worked in them can find other ways to make a living and enjoy what's great about America. So let me turn the floor over to some of the people who really have made today possible, starting with 2 New Yorkers who led the charge on Capitol Hill, Congress members Nydia Velázquez and Jerry Nadler. You know, there were lots of points that when negotiations broke down over the sale of this building, there was a chance that it wasn't going to happen. But these 2 New Yorkers were instrumental in overcoming those challenges to get us where we are today. Congresswoman Velázquez, this building is in your district, and I don't mean to be sexist about this, but you are a woman, so you go first. Then Jerry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Today, we are breaking ground to start renovations on a project that my colleague Jerry Nadler and I have been working for so many years, since 2000. I recently saw a quote from an architecture critic describing New York as a city of ebb and flow, a city of constant shifts of population and economics, a city of virtually no rest. Perhaps there's no better example of that sense of change, energy, and reinvention than the undertaking being launched today. All of us have worked together at the federal and local levels to make sure this building is put to productive use as a manufacturing center and generator of jobs and small businesses. I want to thank the General Services Administration, particularly the Regional Administrator, Denise Peace, which has shown great patience over the years in the disposition process. The city was instrumental in investing resources to make this project a reality. The New York City Economic Development Corporation was invaluable to this effort. Salmar Properties worked with us to ensure this redevelopment is done the right way in a manner that benefits our community. Everyone played a role, and we are seeing the positive results of those efforts today. The project will mean great economic opportunity for our local community, especially Sunset Park. We're going to create jobs, both short-term and long-term. In diverse neighborhoods like Sunset Park, such opportunities are essential. Sunset Park is a walk-to-work community, so many of these jobs will be filled by local residents. The industrial sector accounts for 16.4% of the city's private employment. And yes, indeed, it is the private sector that creates jobs, but a little help from the different levels of government is good. And today we are showing that. Under the project terms, for 30 years, 85% of the building will be dedicated to light industrial use, with the remaining 15% going to ground floor retail. These stipulations guarantee the space will house job-creating enterprises. The owner has agreed to include local and minority-owned businesses in the construction work, meaning additional economic activity in our neighborhood. The developer is also seeking a LEED Silver rating for this building. Not only will this building create jobs, it will serve as a model of sustainability. Today, we cross an important threshold. As always, New York is evolving, and with this progress comes the promise of new jobs and economic opportunity. A lot has changed since this massive warehouse was built by the Department of the Navy in 1916, but I'm glad that all of us came together to ensure it has a new life in the 21st century. Thank you and congratulations to all.
Jerry?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am thrilled to be here today after more than a decade of work by so many to break ground on this very significant manufacturing development. Here we are right in the heart of Brooklyn's famous manufacturing district, testifying with our dollars and concrete and steel that there is a future in industrial development here in Brooklyn and in Sunset Park. Manufacturing continues to be an essential component of New York's economy, and we must continue to support its growth and longevity. There's been a myth in this country for many decades that we can afford to let our manufacturing wither and go abroad. I always like to say that as much as I love trial lawyers, this country cannot survive by one half suing the other half. There has to be something about which to sue. We have to make things. There has to be value added. You cannot have a country survive simply on a service economy. You've got to have a manufacturing economy, and I'm glad that we are finally recognizing that, certainly in this city and in this state and beginning in this country. And the efforts of this administration and the General Services Administration and Congresswoman Velasquez and myself and all the people here are testimony to that, and the efforts of Salmar and everybody else involved on rehabilitating this building and bringing the jobs here are testimony that it can work, that we can revive and build and grow our manufacturing industries right here in New York City. Federal Building Number 2 will breathe new life into Sunset Park and the surrounding area, ushering in 1,300 permanent jobs, 400 construction jobs, essential economic development, and critically renewed confidence in local manufacturing. I applaud the GSA and the city, which along with community stakeholders, Congresswoman Velasquez and myself, have worked so hard and so long to see this project through. I welcome Salmar to this community and look forward to our future together in Brooklyn's growing and reviving manufacturing district. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you for those words. I couldn't agree more. City Council Speaker Chris Quinn is freezing to death, but nevertheless, she has been our partner in finding more ways to put New Yorkers to work during these hard times, and we want to get her to speak and then bundle up so that she can continue to do that. Chris, just tell you something. This building, to show you, you're much too young to know this, but even Mr. Kerry's father wasn't born when this building was built, and that means a long time ago.
That's funny you should say it, Mr. Mayor, because I actually was thinking my father wasn't born. When you said the Navy, it made me think of my father, and he was born in 26, so neither of those great men were born. Not only am I freezing, this is not much of a pro-hair press conference. I just want to say that for the record. But right. We will send you the bill. But nonetheless, notwithstanding a little bit of a chill in the hair situation, this is a great morning for all of us in Brooklyn and New York City. And I want to thank the mayor and our great EDC head, Seth Pinsky. I want to thank the two Congress members, Jerry Nadler and Nydia Velázquez, who have fought so hard to bring the resources that can help to get this project done. I want to thank Marty Markowitz for pushing for everything Brooklyn all the time, and Sarah Gonzalez, who is working so hard for this district, and of course Salmar. And this building, I think, in its age and in its size and significance, represents something really important about New York. In other cities, they would have torn this down, gotten rid of it. The plan wouldn't have been what can we make it into. It would have been what can we put instead of it. But instead, here in Brooklyn, with the support of the mayor and Jerry and Nydia, we are talking about how we reuse buildings, how we adapt them, how we take our history and turn it into something that can add to the present. And it is so exciting to see the incredibly sexy name Federal Building 2 now be associated with tremendous construction jobs, tremendous permanent jobs, and a revitalization of manufacturing and other jobs that can help lead people into the middle class. So, Mr. Mayor, Congressmembers Velázquez and Nadler, thank you so much. And Salmar, thank you for being the key to this, because the truth is, it's about public-private partnerships and all levels of government working together to put people back to work.
Chris, thank you. As you know, our city's Economic Development Corporation has just been involved in so many ways, in so many different things in this city to make sure that we have a future. I don't think people understand just how important their work is, because they make an investment and the benefits come a year or 2 years or even 10 or 20 years later on. But cities that don't have an organization as competent and as interested in building for the future as this one really don't have the future that I think New York does. We are working hard to grow our city's industrial sector along with biotech and IT and fashion and everything else, and create jobs for all New Yorkers. In this case, these will be mostly blue-collar jobs for New Yorkers. EDC's president, Seth Pinsky, is here. Seth?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted just to thank the Salmar team, of course, as well as GSA and our partners in Congress, Representative Velázquez and Representative Nadler, as well as Speaker Quinn and Councilmember Gonzalez and Borough President Markowitz for all of their cooperation on this project. Also to thank the great EDC team that worked so hard to make this a reality. Under the mayor's leadership, we are committed to strengthening and expanding the industrial sector here in New York City, with a particular focus on the Brooklyn waterfront. And to this end, EDC is working with the council and with sister agencies to introduce a series of initiatives which represent over $100 million in investment in our industrial sector here in the city. And a perfect example of this transformation is what's going on here at the Federal Building. And it's building on the work that we're doing elsewhere on the Sunset Park waterfront, from the Brooklyn Army Terminal, where in just the last 2 months we've attracted 5 new businesses, and we're putting millions of dollars into subdividing space to modernize it for new, smaller users. We're also making investments at the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, reactivating rail freight, and as the mayor mentioned, putting in a new recycling plant and reactivating a long-dormant port facility, which is not just a green initiative which takes hundreds of thousands of truck trips off of the roads, but also is putting people back to work. These 2 facilities are at the heart of an industrial area here on the Brooklyn waterfront that just in the city-owned portion alone accounts for 6 million square feet of space and 3,400 jobs. And I think that this investment that's being made by Salmar in Federal Building 2 will only strengthen the working waterfront here in Brooklyn. And I'm looking forward to coming back over the next several years for many more positive announcements here at the Federal Building and elsewhere on the Brooklyn waterfront. Thank you.
Seth, thank you. As we all know, nothing good happens in Brooklyn without a lot of help from the next speaker. On the waterfront, all over the borough. The bad stuff, the mayor's problem. The good stuff, the borough president, Marty Markowitz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very, very much. Christine Quinn, our great Congress members, Nydia Velázquez and Jerry Nadler, and, of course, my colleague here in Brooklyn, Sarah Gonzalez. I want to congratulate Salmar Properties. By the way, they're a Brooklyn-based company. So Look at that smile. You could tell. You could just see it radiate. Thank you very, very much. And Seth Pinsky's leadership of EDC is tremendous. Ever so briefly, I want to just follow up on what the congressman said, and that is manufacturing jobs. And that's what I hope. Small companies will be located in this building that will look a lot different very, very soon. From Brooklyn, companies like Domino Sugar, Lohman's, Brillo, Alpo, Savaro, P.C. Richard, the Brooklyn Flint Works, which became Corning Glassware. From those small companies originally became national and international powerhouses. And it's my hope that the companies that will be located here might take a page out of the book of Nick Hayek, who was the CEO of the Swatch Group, Swatch watches and lots of others. And he said in the New York Times a few months ago, instead of crying and blaming China for producing goods at a lower cost for the whole world, countries like the U.S. should realize that outsourcing most of the production is a big mistake. He went on to say proof that entrepreneurship is likely to flourish in a country that believes in maintaining manufacturing and factories even with a very high cost base. This is something that the U.S. used to understand, but the days of Henry Ford are sadly long gone. Mayor Bloomberg, under your leadership, excellent, superb economic activity have occurred in all the boroughs, certainly here in Brooklyn for sure. In fact, I'm happy to say we're outpacing the rest of New York City. I'm delighted. But we know that the contributions that we've made, there's still so much more to go. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what it's all about. So let this new building, once renovated and home to small companies, produce the jobs of tomorrow that we need to reclaim to ensure that someday everyone that wants a job has a job. Thank you very, very much.
Marty, thank you. I just think we all should, when you listen to Marty, realize what he's really saying. We have to have jobs here, but we also have to have a market to sell those jobs. And I think some of this misguided stuff in Washington of blaming China for everything and what could potentially start a devastating trade war, people that work here are going to sell their products into markets like China. And we just have to have open markets. Otherwise, they're not going to have the jobs here. Sarah Gonzalez is the city councilwoman. Sorry about that. Sarah Gonzalez, the city councilwoman from this. Is that right?
We're both from Puerto Rico. That's right.
How's your Spanish?
Excelente.
Excelente. Sarah Gonzalez, la concejal.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I do embrace today Federal Building Number 2. I'm very excited after so many years of negotiating, and I want to thank our Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez and our Congressman Jerry Nadler for their incredible efforts that today we know that there will be 1,300 jobs and 400 construction jobs in this district. I certainly embrace that in this economy, and I say to Mayor Bloomberg, thank you so much for your efforts. Congratulations to Salma Realty Properties. And congratulations, and I look forward as the elected official in this district to possibly sit and hopefully figure out what jobs are coming to my community. I also just want to say to the entire community and to the entire area in District 38, this is a happy day for us in this economy. We are certainly prospering. Many years ago, we signed on to the waterfront principles, and I remember doing that with Congresswoman Velázquez and Jerry Nadler. And this is 197A in its reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Congress. Can I do that again? City Councilman, well, you never know, someday.
I love it. I love it.
I've always questioned people who name their companies after themselves. But when you want to know where the name Salmar comes from, the two owners, Sal Rusi and Marvin Shine, Salmar. And when you do name the company after yourselves, it always works. I can almost guarantee it. One of you guys is going to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I just want to say that this is a long process getting to this point. We started more than 2.5 years ago in the process of acquiring this building, bidding on the building, working with EDC and the various New York agencies. And we just closed on the building in August. And as you can see, we're starting the renovation. And the theme of this building is going to be Made in America. We want people to know that this is a building that's going to encourage American manufacturing and American industry, with the goal of bringing pride back to this country and back to the city. I think the American people are beginning to realize that in order for them to work, they have to support workers in this country. And I think that as an entrepreneur and as a businessman, I'm as concerned as everybody else is about the welfare of this country. So it is a huge investment, and sometimes I look at this building and I'm wondering, what am I doing? But I think it's important, and I think that it sends a message to other entrepreneurs that they need to support the manufacturing process in this country. And the mayor is right. Some manufacturing will never be done again in this country. It just is not going to pay. So we're going to look for other industry uses that are innovative and high-tech uses that will grow just like manufacturing. So we're very pleased to be here, and I think that you can see that we're doing work on this building. And if you come back, our goal is to make this a Class A building that the borough and the city can be very proud of, and we can be very proud of. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, and good luck. We hope you're phenomenally successful and pay a lot of taxes. Finally, a woman who was really as important in this process, and it certainly wouldn't have happened without her, and this city owes her a great debt of gratitude. U.S. General Services Administration's Regional Administrator for the Northeast, Denise Pease.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask to be joined by my colleague from New England, who actually did all of the work, Bob Zarneski, who's the Regional Administrator for GSA in New England. We work throughout the footprint, and they're responsible for the disposal of properties, but to support President Obama's mission to get jobs going in all areas of our country. This building and the transfer of this building is not just about jobs and not just about supporting the opportunities for small businesses to grow and stabilizing our economy. It's also about what we are doing for the community of Sunset Park. As a native New Yorker, I appreciate that. But you know, the GSA team worked long and hard to get this project moving. And I have to take a few minutes to thank Glenn Rotundo from the Northeast, my regional commissioner, also Joanna Rosado, who's joined us from Philadelphia, and our team here in Brooklyn, Jake Richardson, Rachel Kaplan, Eliza Huffman Ward, and particularly from the Northeast, John Kelly and David Wells, who went through this building with me on this rainy Saturday. You know, this wouldn't have happened without the support of my colleagues and my friends in government. This is about government working together, particularly our congressional representatives. Congressman Nadler, we couldn't have done it without you, and the dynamic Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, who prevented a federal prison from taking this property to support small businesses. Thank you very much. But most of all, Mayor Bloomberg, thank you for working with the federal government, and Seth Pinsky for working with us to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Happy to do it. And thank you once again. You can tell the president thank you for us. Before we take questions, let me just quickly summarize today's announcement for our Spanish-speaking audience. Hoy inicia la reconstrucción del edificio federal número 2. Este enorme almacén de más de 1 millón de pies cuadrados será convertido en un nuevo centro industrial. La restauración creará por lo menos 400 trabajos y llevará a 1,300 puestos industriales permanentes. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions on. Yes, sir.